What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Hawks Film Room Podcast. It's by yours truly, David Lee, aka D Lee for three. We'll be using the my draft podcast branding for this one. I haven't been able to switch it over to this new platform yet, but it's all good, man. I was in the building for the past two Hawks games, which means I saw the Jock Lando game where Jock, if you don't follow me on other socials, you may not know this. Jock had the best game by any player to be traded 1-1 for cash considerations at the deadline. I don't mean like the first game. I mean first game ever. I mean overall game, not just the first game ever. Hawks went down to the wire against Utah in the building. There were so many Ace Bailey fans, so many Isaiah Collier fans, obviously because those guys are from the area. He hit that three against Corey Kispert, who lost him on that off-ball action. And then the Hawks come into this game against a red-hot Charlotte Hornets team. This team has now won 9 in a row. They've arguably been the best offense in the league over that stretch. And there's two things that Charlotte does extremely well. They get up a ton of threes. Okay, between Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball, and Con Knipple, those are three of the highest two-point rate guys in the league. Eventually, they'll be adding Kobe White to that as well. But then they have Musa Diabate and Ryan Kalkbrenner to clean up any misses, to the point where Charlotte will throw up anything, knowing that those guys will clean it up. And that happened multiple times in this game against the Hawks. At the presser, I asked Quin Snyder, how does he feel about the dispersion of responsibility for someone like Jaylen Johnson, right? So as we all know, Jaylen Johnson is, the Hawks' best scorer. He is their lead initiator. He is their leading rebounder. And in the beginning of the game, the first half, Quin Snyder, and now both him and Musa start, but Quin Snyder was pretty clearly trying to match Musa's minutes with Jaylen Johnson's minutes. And they have to do that because Jaylen is, of course, the most proficient offensive rebounder on the team. Now, since CJ McCollum has entered this roster, he's technically at a comparable on-ball percentage, technically at a comparable shot load, but of course, this isn't just his minutes with Atlanta. So Jaylen Johnson is at a 27 on-ball percentage, and he is one of the more prolific defensive rebounders in the league, which puts him in like pretty rare category. If we think about guys who are on the ball that much and are also like one of the better rebounders in the league, like to put it into context, man, like Jaylen is at a 27 rebounding percentage and that's like, we'll talk about just the guys who have qualified, guys who have played at least, we're at like the halfway mark, at least 25 games. Jaylen he's ninth in the league in defensive rebounding percentage. The guys above him: Victor, Towns, Drummond, Nurkic, Jokic, Rob Will, Kevin Love, Khalil Ware, Jaylen Johnson. So I can say pretty confidently, like the only other player that has this amount of load on the glass and as an offensive player is Nikola Jokic. Now, in Quin Snyder's answer, he said that he wants Jaylen to be just as involved defensively as he wants him offensively. And I think that's absolutely true. But I think you run into some diminishing returns when he is being matched with an extremely energetic offensive rebounder. And of course, like always, we'll take a look at the tape, because what you'll see there is that it's just hard, man. Like because Jaylen is your best defensive rebounder, it means that when there are moments where he's off the floor or they're running, if Onyeka's not on the floor, it's just really hard to get things to work, man. And for example, tonight's game, Jaylen Johnson played 39 minutes. In the 9 minutes he sat, Charlotte had a 60% offensive rebounding percentage. That means they got, for every 5 shots they missed, they offensive rebounded 3 of them. When Jaylen was off the floor, that fell to 36%, which is still very, very high. And again, Quin talked about it. He feels like so much of their rebounding issues comes down to what he called rotational rebounding, right? So even if they're not getting extremely beat, because they're at a disadvantage with the defense being tilted, they help early, and now it's the helper has to help the helper. And as we'll look at in the film, Charlotte did a really good job of making sure that the helper was a small, or the helper was someone who isn't as engaged defensively. And so there were a lot of moments where, especially down the stretch, Corey Kispert wasn't fast enough. CJ McCollum wasn't big enough. Jaylen Johnson wasn't engaged enough. And those are the things that stack up over the course of the game. And then Knipple, I think, of course, there are levels between him and Corey Kispert. I mean, one was, a top 10 pick and the other is, a fringe NBA player. But Kispert flat out just should not have closed this game. He closed last night's game against Utah. The fact that Zacch could not close when he scored 18 points in 23 minutes and was really phenomenal defensively. Again, we'll look at the film. He had 3 blocks, 7 of 10 from the field. I think it just kind of shows where Quin views him. And even with that being said, like him and Kispert play the same amount of minutes, and that can't happen. Like if the rationale should be, you gonna stick with whoever's hot. That's fine. If you don't think you can trust Risacher's shooting or handling, whatever it may be. But if he's having a good game, you should roll with him because you're just better defensively with him on the floor. But yeah, I don't think that will ever really be a thing that Quin will go to unless he feels like he can trust him offensively, which I think is completely fine, right? But if you're going to, for example, you can't close with both CJ and Corey. If you're going to close with CJ, then Zacch should be on the floor. If you're going to close with Corey, then you've got to surround him with defense too. But Corey just wasn't giving them enough offensively, in my opinion, to justify what ended up being Quin's decision, which was to close with Corey Kispert. Let's go ahead and hop into the film, man. There's some good stuff, like always. There's some bad stuff. That is the wrong film. My bad. I'm trying to watch that BYU Houston game. Make sure I pull up the right screen. Yeah, there's good and bad, like always. But boom, there we go. Nice. So I want to start with Zacch because when we talk about what he needs to do to get on the floor, I mean, I was like, dang, man, like there's nothing else. I feel like he did pretty much everything you could ask from him here. Make sure y'all can see my face too. Okay, there we go. So I thought he was really crisp with his rotations. Like I mentioned, Charlotte's a really good offense. They've got a ton of offensive threats, and they use Quin a lot as a screener. So that's a rip screen for that big, and then they're going to have Miles Bridges come up and get it, and then it's going to be a flare, right? So they got a flare heading out for Knipple, which is going to bring Onyeka up to the level. And then when that happens, Quin can read the defense and say, before he even puts his feet on the floor, I've got 2 Hawks on me. Let's get it to the big. Now, Musa should have already delved, but he doesn't. He takes a little bit of time. Look who's there to meet him on the catch. And so Zacch turns what would have been an open layup into a miss. Big. Good to see. Here, Nikhil tries to take on how many Hornets? 1, 2, 3, 4. I've generally liked Nikhil in transition, but that was 5 Hornets. He didn't have the best night. But again, here, Zach's directing traffic in semi-transition. He's matched up against Musa. He's going to be making himself as big as possible against Quin. And they end up forcing a turnover. Or, sorry, that should have been a turnover that ends up bouncing out their way. And I think they end up getting a rebound after this. You can see how active, like, even their smalls are on the glass. This is why I think, like, Devin Booker was never, like, a fair, holistic comp for Knipple because he's so strong. He's so active on the glass. He's such an electric movement shooter that, I mean, that might sound blasphemous, but he'll probably be better than Devin Booker. I want to point out how good the Hornets offense is here. This is pretty simple. They're just running spread pick and roll, and then they're going to get into, I believe this is the ghost screen with Quin. They run a lot of this because Quin is such a dangerous movement shooter, and it's really tough to try to pass off assignments here. Here, the Hawks are in a scramble situation. Zach's going to dig a little bit, but he can't commit too much because Brandon Miller's there. LaMelo drives. He kicks it to Miles Bridges. There's either a miscommunication or Dyson doesn't realize that Quin is right here, but you have to treat him like he's prime Klay Thompson, quite honestly. He might as well be at this point, man. He's so good at basketball. Then the Hawks come down right after they give up that 3, though, and they're going to get to a wide pin action here for Zacch, or an away pin, sorry. So simple, when LaMelo goes under, automatic trigger, just pull it. Good to see him shoot with confidence. Zach's going to have bad games, man. It's what's going to happen, but he's got to be able to bounce back. I still hate his contesting technique. He just makes himself smaller. You can see how effortlessly Musa is able to position himself for offensive rebounds and why it's so important to have Jalen attack here. Otherwise, you're in big trouble. Let's see. I think this one is the trail three for Onyeka. Onyeka at the presser was saying that he wasn't very bothered with the mask. I think Kevin had said during the shoot around though that he kept fiddling with it, and it looked clunky, man. Like it looked like it had a lot more straps than a normal mask, but you wouldn't have been able to tell from the way he was playing offensively. Was very confident. Believe this is a trail three. This is such a big weapon for the Hawks. They really need him to shoot this confidently and frequently, and a lot of credit to him, man. Here, Jalen's going to read this jump pass from Brandon Miller. He really had nowhere to throw this. And then I think this turns into a Zacch bucket, if I remember correctly, or maybe I'm wrong. Let's let this play a little bit. I don't really think this is anything. Oh yeah, yeah. The Quin said he liked Jalen's offensive process. It wasn't the best to start the game, but he's had this pattern where he just kind of settles in the second half. And against Utah, I felt like he was settling a little bit to start. Against Charlotte, I felt like he was settling a little bit. And I think maybe this is something conscious where he's trying to get his jumper going early, which maybe opens up things for him down the line. But he was taking some early jumpers in this game, and I was like, I don't know how to feel about that. Again, this is why you want Jalen on the glass, though, because when he does get the ball in his hands, it's an instant fast break, and he can go coast to coast. And because Musa is an offensive rebounding inclined big, when Musa crashes the glass, all of a sudden he's going to be behind the play, right? And so if he can't get that when Jalen goes for it, then look at the floor balance. And no one else on Charlotte's roster is going to be able to rim protect. And he just bullies Melo out the way and ends up getting to the free throw line. Let's take a look at another semi-transition opportunity. So here, it depends on how the Hornets alignment is, but sometimes they'll just have, I don't know if this, again, could be intentional, just could be LaMelo not being very efficient at the rim, but like they'll just kind of have LaMelo attack the rim and throw something up, or even sometimes Miles Bridges, sometimes Brandon Miller, and hope that they do something with it. And if they miss it, you've got Kalkbrenner down there lurking, or you've got Musa lurking. But here, because he was behind them, they're not quite able to pull that same thing off. And now the Hawks are in semi-transition. Again, Musa's crashing the glass, so it gives an advantage to the Hawks. And they're able to get it to Corey Kispert. Boom. Bang. Dyson has not had the best offensive stretch, but of course he's always going to be very handsy and active defensively. This is a cornerback-esque play. And then the wherewithal to save this, keep it inbounds, turn around, and scoop it to Jaylen Johnson. And then now the Hawks are again in a steal and a save. And now he generates a transition opportunity from that by keeping it in play. Here's going to be a block from Zacch. Like I mentioned, I feel like he played a lot better here. So he's playing high up against Quin here. So if they get into a handoff, he's ready to attack and get over the screen. Gets through that first one, blows up that action. He was in position to try and take it away from Musa there. Then he recovers back out to Quin, hands up, flips his hips. When Quin drives, takes the bump, stays down on the pump fake, eats that bump too, and then he's able to block the shot and out of bounds. And look at the time on the shot clock, right? And this all starts from the beginning. Playing up on Quin delays this initial action. So when they try to get to this handoff from this sort of screen into that handoff, Zach's able to get over it. He blows up the screen. He blows up the handoff as well, forces Musa to try to get it back to Miles Bridges, and then he continues throughout the rest of the possession. It's impressive defense, man. I think he deserved a chance to close the game. Do I think he'll always should be the choice? No. But I think, what message are you sending to him and the rest of the team if he's indiscriminately not going to close? And you're going to close with someone who is deficient defensively and is not having the same level of offensive game. Now, look at the time on the shot clock. 5 seconds. They want to lob this over the top of Knipple. Jalen gets a hand on it. Zacch hustles. Quin has to dive on it. He gets it to Musa, who takes a three, and we all know that's an air ball. Good hustle. Now, here's an ATO. I actually say this one because I do not remember what actually happened in this play, and I wanted to see it because they generated a bucket out of it. Looks like they had a curl for Nikhil, and then Jalen's going to set that rub screen, get to a post up, and then CJ's going to tiptoe the baseline and get it in the corner to Nikhil, who drains the three. Yeah, that's a good look at the mask. This is what I was talking like. This would really bother me. I mean, you have to have it, but and for as bad as his teeth. I think he said he went through a 3-hour procedure. You wouldn't be able to tell. They did a really good job on the surgery. I hope you, like, I don't know that healing process is probably wicked. He said he was just trying to take care of his body, so he'd be ready to come back because he wanted to play before the All-Star break. Let's take a look at some of the weak side rebounding from Dyson here. Again, Charlotte takes most of their advantage when teams have to send help or the bigs have to come over and help. Musa, like, unlike most guys, he's going to like immediately get in the offensive rebounding position. Like, he's not really trying to seal to get the ball here. He's sealing to get their board. And Dyson's able to out jump him and out leverage him. And they needed that from him, even if Dyson didn't have the best offensive game. I clipped this one because it's great team defense. You're going to have good pressure from Jalen on the top of the ball. He's going to force it a little bit higher up, get through the screen, recover back to LaMelo. Hands aren't quite active, but he's at least there as a presence. LaMelo doesn't take the immediate pass to Con. They collapse. Con can't quite get it over to Brandon Miller cleanly. And then Dyson's going to sit down on this and force a very tough shot from Brandon Miller. And the Hawks go the other way. This is the first play to start the third after halftime. You're going to see the Hawks get into a split cut action. They like to run this with usually Onyeka. They ran a lot with KP as well. But here it's Dyson setting like kind of like a flare-ish type thing where Jalen can lift and take a catch and shoot three. It's important to get Jalen easy shots because of what he's doing for them on both ends, but particularly offensively. Like, he needs to have a low barrier to entry to getting his shots up. Now here, it's nitpicky kind of, but I think Onyeka should have kicked this out because of the way that Brandon Miller just puts his hands up. He delays the pass, right? Like, ideally, you'd want to get here, but you have to wait. And Onyeka tries to force this over Musa when you've got Zacch wide open. Not the worst thing, but he missed it so bad that it was like, I don't think he had good leverage there. And here's another good example of why Jalen's so important as a weak side rebounder. Onyeka's not worried about the ball. He's worried about Musa. You see, he's full on offensive, pass blocking. He's in pass protection here. Like, he's not worried about, I have to stop this edge rusher from getting to the quarterback more than anything. And it also just, again, allows Jalen to get the ball. Now the Hawks are in semi-transition, and you see how he can push the pace. And I think that ended up being an and-one. Well, this is what I meant, though, where Charlotte can just kind of throw it whatever, and it's kind of chill just because they have these offensive rebounders. Quin kept mentioning Kalkbrenner by name, and I wonder, I'm not saying he was potentially sending a message, but I do think he really values these big centers. And so here, look, Brandon Miller throws up some bullshit, and Kalkbrenner just gobbles it up. Like, I don't even think Brandon Miller thought he was making this. Like, watch how he does this, man. You had no chance, but you might as well get a layup up because Kalkbrenner's 7-1, and you see, again, it's Nikhil who's trying to keep him off the glass because Lando has to challenge because there's a screen. And, ideally you would have Jalen try to pinch this rebound and get physical there. But at that point, Kalkbrenner already had his leverage. What's this play? I think this is, a ghost. And this is going to find Jalen again. I think he did a good job attacking a mismatch here. No, this is the skip pass. Man, there's so many clips, I forget. Yeah, it finishes through contact. This is another great defensive set. Or defensive rep. You've got Nikhil putting ball pressure. Corey Kispert's probably a better suited to guard someone like Brandon Miller, and definitely not Concanipple. Here comes that angle pick and roll. Brandon Miller's going to wave it off. He's going to throw it to Kalkbrenner. Look at the pressure from Landale. And from my vantage point in the arena, this was really, really good denial from Jaylen Johnson. Understanding at what point in the shot clock they're in. Not just letting Corey Kispert sit there and, letting them pass off that assignment cleanly and then attacking and really blowing up that handoff. And then staying attached. And then Landale responds with that aggressiveness as well. And now it's a travel. And so really good understanding of the shot clock. You see his Pops is fired up too. What's this play? Yeah, this was a really nice skip pass. Jalen played 22 minutes in the second half, man. I know that's probably not what Quin wanted to do, but they just really needed him to do so, man. With the way this game was going, they would have been in huge trouble. They outscored Charlotte by 3 points in the minutes that he sat, or in the minutes that he did play, and they ended up losing by a sizable margin. I think like so it was like a plus 15 swing. Here he gets somewhat of a mismatch already by walking down Sion James, and when they do get the ball to him here, he's holding it in one hand and throws this skip pass like on the money, super precise, gets it to Corey Kispert, who smokes the three. I want to point out this set from Charlotte. First off, watch Charles Lee here. You see he's calling the play. He's tapping his head. He wants Trey Mann here in this corner. Charlotte's getting organized. He wants Trey Mann in the corner because of what's going to happen next here. So when Khan gets the ball, first off, notice that Corey Kispert is trailing. We know that Khan is a threat to shoot off movement, but now CJ McCollum is going to be the low man when Kalkbrenner follows and chases this for a screen and rolls down this way, right? Because if he sets the screen facing this way as an angle pick and roll, he's going to roll down this lane. And when he rolls, that's a 7-1 behemoth rolling and engaging this low man defender instead of it being Dyson or something like that, because the Hawks have Asa Newell guarding Sion James. They want Asa Newell out there because they ideally would want him to help on the glass and on the boards and at the rim. But you can't really do that if the opposition is going to orchestrate this type of alignment and attract these two defenders with Kalkbrenner's roll gravity. And CJ sees it, but there's not much he can do. So, yeah, and then this is another Dyson save. He ends up taking away from Conk and Nipple, and then the Hawks go the other way, and they have numbers here. This ends up being another miss from Corey Kispert. Guys are going to have good and bad nights. I'm not mad at him, but of course, these are big momentum-shifting shots. And, with the way Zacch closed, you probably want to keep riding him. And again, here's another example where Charlotte can just kind of throw stuff up, knowing that if I can just get it on the rim, look where Kalkbrenner is positioning-wise. He's going to go ahead and get it up for me. Now, this is better individual defense. Jalen high points to rebound again. Watch how when you have a heavy emphasis on offensive rebounding, you're going to expose yourself in transition. The Hawks are aware of that. That's their strength already. And Jalen is one of the best in the league at going coast to coast. I wonder what this play call is. It must be chin or something like that. Quin has so many signals. You might see him do this sometimes on the sideline. You'll see him go like this. See him do this. I'm still trying to figure out everything. But yeah, there's definitely like chin or something like that. Let's see exactly what play this is. Really started in stack. I don't know. But it's going to be a ghost screen for Zacch. And from my vantage point, this was a nasty cross. Flips his hips entirely, gets Khan to engage. Quick trigger. Notice where Zacch catches this. No dip. That's good, man. Like when he shoots with confidence, obviously a completely different player. I don't think it was just the shooting that made this game better than the previous game. Like I pointed out with some of the defensive stuff, but it's good to see him get a little bit more confidence. Hornets are going to run the same horns out play. And again, the reason why it's so dangerous is because Khan is that dangerous as a shooter. Corey Kispert has no chance guarding him. I don't like that Nickeil wasn't on Khan on this play. I assume Quin does not want Corey Kispert on the ball, but like Sion is not a super bursty guy. You can see that in both of these examples, Corey Kispert is trailing. Makes it real easy for Khan. I'm just going to attack your lagging foot. Now, this time, the Hawks are going to tag early. So even before the pass, Dyson is there to engage Diabate. Diabate makes the right read. He's going to kick it to Brandon Miller, and then Brandon Miller is going to kick it this way. And the Hawks pass off assignments pretty well, but Corey Kispert just is not fast enough, and he's not coordinated enough, and he started going to the corner before he loops around this way. Take that roundabout path, and you have bad foot speed. You're going to get blown past again. And so Corey was he was getting lambasted all night, which is why I wouldn't have closed with him. Now, Dyson's offense was pretty bad, so I wasn't sure where Quin was going to go. I was thinking he was going to go CJ in place of Dyson and then close with Zacch and Nickeil, but he ended up closing with CJ, Nickeil, Dyson, Jalen, and Onyeka. So Here's that horns out action again. This time they have Jalen on Con. I could not tell if that was a switch or if that was the matchup they had. Yeah, that's just the matchup they had. Probably got scrambled a little bit in transition. And Jalen's going to, this is, some of the benefit though. He's able to get back into the play, and you see he's able to stretch his arm out and take that away from Musa, keep it in play as well. And Dyson had I don't know who Miles Bridges thinks he is, shooting it like this. I was very happy when he missed that. Dyson ends up converting on this end one. He had 2 missed layups at the end of the game, which was unfortunate. Keeps that high off the glass left hand and scoot. Look really nice. This is a big board. You get this switch. LaMelo loves to attack Onyeka on a switch. Of course, they go way back to high school. Onyeka has a great rep here. Grenade finds Miles Bridges. Look at how Con crashes. It's not many movement shooters doing this. This is why he's different. Okay. And he has some creation ability too. I really like Con a lot. But this is a contested rebound that Dyson wins pretty decisively. Now, I want you all to pay attention to Charlotte's floor balance here. Dang, I hope this is the right play that I clipped, or did I mess up? Oh, this is one of those. Unfortunately, this is one of those plays, man. It's just unfortunate. So Dyson's sitting in the paint, but I walk past LaMelo in the tunnel. I'm not convinced he's 6'8", but he's not small, and so Dyson doesn't really have a physical advantage there. And he does weight wise, so he probably should have tried to bump him and then spin. But that was one of 2 missed shots, which was rough. This is better. I think this is where I'm talking about the floor balance, right? So watch Charles Lee here. He's going to be directing traffic. So he's telling guys to space, go this way. He wants Con here. He wants Miles Bridges spaced. He tells everyone to push out. Give LaMelo space to operate. And then when this screen does come, all they care about is attacking CJ McCollum. They completely mess up the switch. LaMelo has more than a step. He kicks it to Miles Bridges. And that same urgency that we saw from Jalen on that denial of the pass, we needed that here. He needed to be here, but he was kind of just operating in space. And again, you can't leave Knipple open. As soon as I saw that go up, I knew it was going in. Hawks ended up missing that layup. Dyson missed a layup about 38 seconds ago. It wasn't super open, but you really don't get a better look than this. Down 3. He gets it to Nikhil. Nikhil catches it high. Great contest from Con, and he misses it. Brutal, man. Now that we went through the film, I do want to touch on some things, generally speaking, Hawks-wise. I think it's obviously pretty clear that Ansu does not believe in his team's ability to compete this year, which I don't think he should. If you are following me on other platforms, you probably already heard my Kuminga take. Essentially, I'm worried about the duplicity or the areas of overlap, the negative overlap between him and Dyson offensively. They're both one of the least efficient drivers. They were both one of the least efficient drivers last year, 2025. Dyson's even more inefficient on spot-ups than he was last year. He's one of the worst players in the league in points over expectation on spot-up opportunities just because of the hand stuff that he's going through, the lack of off-the-catch shooting ability. And Kuminga isn't much better. Kuminga also will be reevaluated at the All-Star break for a bone bruise, which is interesting. Overall, though, I'm not mad at the idea of taking an expiring contract in Kristaps Porzingis and CJ and Luke Kennard, guys who you potentially weren't going to retain. This may sound crazy to people. I think KP was good enough that I would have had him back on a very cheap deal. Emphasis on very cheap. But he was our best player. And I know people don't like when I say that. People have, bring up Jaylen Johnson. But I'm just saying, this team was dramatically different offensively with him on the floor. It's the reason why he was top 12 in EPM. It's the reason why his on-offs were so crazy. Yes, it was a small sample. Yes, you have to be able to be on the floor. And I think that there's also something to be said about, the consistency of a game plan and not having that when you don't know if a guy's going to play night to night. I think they genuinely thought he was going to play against Miami. I don't think that was any, trade hijinks or anything like that. I think they genuinely thought he was going to play, and it flares up. And, POTS is very nebulous. It's very hard to deal with. It can flare up. So I hope he gets healthy for like his own career's sake. But I can certainly understand why the Hawks at this point are like, hey, let's take another flyer on an expiring contract, another one that we can potentially move on, rehabilitate value. Because with the season that KP had, there likely weren't any better deals. Now, I don't like, again, I like the process of making a sort of like, hey, let's take another pass on an expiring contract. I don't like making that pass on Jonathan Kuminga because I don't think he's someone who can necessarily be fixed, because I think some of his stuff is like his perception of himself. Like, I think that Jonathan Kuminga believes that he's a star. And why would Jonathan Kuminga accept the bench role here when he wouldn't do it for Steph Curry or Draymond Green or Steve Kerr or Klay Thompson in a winning situation? It's not like the Hawks spacing is any better than it. Like, literally does not get better than that. He played 56% of his minutes with Steph Curry, 30 to 35% with Klay Thompson during his time. I think the only non-spacers he played with, of course, were Draymond Green and Kevon Looney. So now, all that being said, I think Kuminga adds things and brings things to the roster that we don't currently have: physicality, athleticism, potential for viability, transition scoring. What he doesn't have is quick decision making, and Quin Snyder talks about that all the time. He's not active defensively. Don't let anyone tell you he's a good defender. He isn't, especially relative to his tools and his athleticism. He should be better. Very similar to Jaylen Johnson. But Kuminga has constantly been less efficient, less versatile offensively, way more turnover prone. So, onto, of course, he spent time in Golden State, and I don't think he's given me any reason to think that he would handcuff this organization to a player who's been deficient in every year of his career. I also don't think that 30 games is enough of a sample size to make a long-term commitment to him. The Hawks could pick up that team option, but that team option is pretty close to what the extension would be. I think the most they can offer him is like 4 years, 118 million. Team option is like 18 to 20 million, something like that off the top of my head. And there's a lot of ways. I can give you about 100 different ways I'd spend that money from my NBA team's perspective, not even just me personally. I could give you a bunch of different ways I'd rather allocate that money. So even if/when he has a good season for the Hawks, I am concerned about the length of that sample size and how easy it would be to fool yourselves into thinking that this is going to be a good long-term fit. And I don't think there's any way that him and Dyson can or should share the floor. I think it might even be nasty with him and Jalen. Rotation-wise in general, I'm not going to say the rotation is bloated. They have options now, but like tonight, for example, we saw no Mo Gay. We saw no Christian Koloko, who has started for this team. The Hawks went 9 deep, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, they went 9 deep, assuming that Kuminga is going to play for this team. Then, I mean, they played Asa 8 minutes and Kispert 23 minutes. So I think there's 16 to 20 minutes there. I don't think you'd want to play Jalen 40 minutes nightly. I think that I had got a comment. It was like, you were pretty harsh on the Kuminga trade. Like, how do you feel about Zacch after the Utah game? And it's like, we know Zach's going to have games like this. I think that there's a chance that Kuminga is like actively like detrimental. There's a difference in like not having a good game and not being, I don't want to say worthy of a number one pick, but like almost being invisible in a sense, like not doing anything bad. He's not actively losing you games, but he's not winning it either. That's more so what Zacch does. I think there'll be many moments where Kuminga's redundancies and deficiencies will multiply what the Hawks have already struggled with in the half court. But I'm not going to write him off before I see it. I'm just letting you know that I have no reason to believe that this situation is better for him than Golden State. And people can talk about Steve Kerr and young players as much as he wants. I don't even particularly think that Steve Kerr is an amazing coach, but some of these guys are just not viable NBA players. You know what I mean? Like, give me a guy who got real minutes for Golden State and was bad there and then became good somewhere else, because Kelly Oubre has been bad everywhere, so he doesn't count. Very interesting questions to be answered, man. I'm looking forward to seeing what this team looks like after the offseason, what they look like. Just in general, because like, I mean, I can't really imagine Kuminga's trade value pumping that much for the Hawks, like from his time with the Hawks. Like, I mean, does Sacramento still interested? Let me know. Yeah, man. Hope you all enjoyed. Next game that the Hawks have is against Minnesota, 8 p.m. Monday. We'll see if I'll be able to. I'll probably do like episodes every 2 games, every 3 games, something like that, leading up to the All-Star break. And then after All-Star break, I will have a full play-by-play update for everyone. Hope you all enjoy. Tap in with me on all platforms, DLE for 3. All the links in the description. Site update coming soon within the next couple days. Hope you all are safe.